This is Mrs. Naslund, and today we're doing Unit 1, Lesson 5, Mixed Comparison Problems. Our learning objective is, I can write and answer comparison questions about a pictograph and a bar graph. So this is very similar to what we were doing in Lesson 4, except we'll be looking at pictographs and bar graphs to make our comparisons. A pictograph compares amounts. This pictograph shows how many books 5 students checked out at a library in 1 year. Now, it's really important, really important when we looked at pictographs, or any graph for that matter, that we look at all the different pieces that put the graph together. So the first thing you always want to do is you want to read the title here. Books checked out of the library. And then we notice, it says students, it has all the students. And then over here, this is so important to look at the key. Almost always, when kids get questions wrong related to pictographs and bar graphs, it's because they haven't paid attention to the key. So always look at the key. It tells us that one book represents 5 books. So for example, Naji here checked out a total of 10 books. Okay, even though 2 are shown, we know that each book represents 5 books. So let's go ahead and use this graph to answer some comparison questions. It says, I'm going to make sure you can see it all. There we go. Write a multiplication equation that compares the number of books Tariq checked out, T, to the number of books Jamarcus checked out, J. So we're looking at Tariq and we're looking at Jamarcus. And we'll notice that Jamarcus has 1, 2, 3 books, so a total of 15 books. And Tariq has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books. So what I like to do is I like to take the smaller number, and sometimes it helps me just to kind of draw a line there, right between the bigger one. So he checked out 3, Jamarcus did, and Tariq checked out 6. So you'll notice that it's Tariq checked out double what Jamarcus checked out. So if I was going to write a multiplication equation, I'm going to say Tariq equals Jamarcus, J, times, and I'm going to say times 2, because if I took 3 of these 15 books and I times it by 2, I would end up with the 30 books that Tariq checked out. Okay? All right, let's go ahead and try another one here. Now it says, write a division equation that compares the number of books Naji checked out N, so there's Naji, checked out N, to the number of books Celine checked out C. All right, so Naji here checked out 2 or 10 books, and Celine checked out, let's just draw our lines again, that helps us. So I look at the smaller number, there's 2. She checked out 2, 4, 6, 8 books. And again, they each represent 5, so she checked out 40 books. So instead of checking out 10, she checked out 40. So they want me to write a division equation this time. So I'm going to say Naji, N, is equal to Celine divided by what number? And again, what I do is I look at the number of times that Naji would go in here. So she would go in 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So 4 times. All right, good. Now I'm going to have you try this one on your own. It says, Celine checked out twice as many books as which student? Let me go ahead and erase what I have up here. Celine checked out twice as many books as which student? Now, it might help us if I go in and I count how many there are here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to draw a line halfway through there for you, halfway. So see, using that line, if you can figure out which of these students checked out twice as many, Celine checked out twice as many students as, or Celine checked out twice as many books as which student? All right, if you answered Brooke, you were right on. Because if we draw the line of halfway, 4 books would represent half of the 8 or 40 books she checked out. Look here, Brooke aligns with that. So she checked out twice as many books. How about this next one? It says, which student checked out a fourth as many books as Celine? So when I do that, I'm looking at Celine's 8 books here, and I want to be able to divide it into 4 sections. So I'm thinking to myself, well, 8 divided by what equals 4? And I know the answer to that is 2. So if I try dividing these all into 2, I want to find someone who checked out a fourth as many books as Celine. So a fourth is one of the 4 different pieces that I have here. So which student checked out just 2 books? If you said Naji, great job. Naji checked out a fourth as many books as Celine. All right, let's see. We have one more question here. It says, the number of books Dawson checked out is not shown. If Jamarcus checked out 3 times as many books as Dawson, how many books did Dawson check out? So Dawson, you'll notice, isn't even on the list, but we know that Jamarcus, right here, checked out 3 times as many. And the books, remember, each equal 15. So they checked out 3 times as many. So we want to divide that into 3 different sections, which when we do that, we'll notice that we just get 1 book here. So Jamarcus just checked out 1 of these. Now this is where a lot of people would make their mistake, because they said, oh, well, Jamarcus just checked out 1 book. But you can't forget the key. How many books, sorry, not Dawson, I should have said that, Dawson just checked out 1 book. But you can't forget your key. Dawson really checked out how many books? Yeah, he checked out 5 books. So that's where that key is so important to keep looking at. So Dawson checked out a total of 5 books. All right, great work. Now let's look at a vertical bar graph. The vertical bar graph below shows the number of home run hits by 5 members of a baseball team. All right, again, really important to look at all aspects of the graph before you start answering questions about it. So I'm going to read the title, okay? It's home runs. And look over here. This is the number, so this must be the number of home runs that the person hit. And this is the team member, and it's all of their names. So the team members, and this equals the number of home runs each person hit. All right, it says, write a multiplication equation that compares the number of home runs that Susie hit to the number of home runs Kim hit. So we're going to compare Susie to Kim. So I go ahead and look at this chart, and I look over, and Susie hit 8 home runs. All right, maybe I'll put it above it because it's a little hard to read. And Kim hit 2 home runs. So next I think, okay, how many times does Kim go into Susie? So how many times does 8 or 2 go into 8? And I know that if I do 2 times 4, I get 8. So I'm going to write that Susie S is equal to Kim times, Kim times 4, right? So if I take Kim's 2 and I times it by 4, I'm going to get Susie's 8 home runs. All right, I'm going to have you try this one on your own. It says write a division equation that compares the number of home runs Greta hit G to the number of runs Fred hit F. Okay, so I'm going to compare the two. So I'll help you figure out what the numbers are so you can see them, because I know it'll be hard to see the chart. But we know that Greta hit 6 home runs, and we know that Fred, these are the ones here, that Fred hit a total of 18 home runs. Okay, so you want to write a division equation that compares the number that Fred hit to the number that Greta hit. So go ahead and work on that. And let's see how you did. So Greta is a smaller amount. So I'm going to say Greta is equal to Fred divided by, and you have to think about what number it would be. So I'm going to think, okay, how many times does 6 go into 18? 6 times what equals 18? And the answer is 3. So Greta is equal to Fred divided by 3. All right, so that's the same thing that we did basically with the pictograph, but you can continue it with a vertical bar graph as well. Next, we're gonna look at creating your own graph, and this will be one of the options of activities that you can do in our Schoology folder today. So I wanted to show you how it works. It says choose a survey topic from the box or make one up of your own and conduct your survey and record your results in the tally chart. So I decided to do which juice do you like best? And so far I found out that 6 people like apple. Remember with tally marks we do 4 and we put a slash through it to represent 5. So I had 6 people like apple, 2 like orange, and 3 like pineapple. And then I also have that 7 people for, do my tally mark, 5, 6, 7 like pineapple juice. Then I'm going to scroll down here. We're going to work at doing the rest of this graph here. You need to label each part of the graph. So we're going to need to add a title. We're going to have to add a horizontal and vertical label, and then you're going to actually draw your graph. So I'm going to go ahead and add those in. All right, I've added my titles, got my favorite kind of juice, the number of people, the types of juice, and then I put my different types of juice down here, and I put my number of people. So now I'm going to fill in my actual data using my graph. All right, now you can see that I've added the data. So for apple, I had 6, so I drew the box up to 6. Orange, I had 2, so it goes up to 2. Cranberry, I had 3, and pineapple, I had 7. So you can work on that graph as well in your Schoology folder. The last thing that we're going to talk about today is a stem and leaf plot. This table shows the heights and stories of some buildings in Chicago. So it has all these different buildings and it says how many stories tall they are. And the first thing we're going to do is write the heights in order from least to greatest. So I'm going to look at all these numbers and I'm going to write them in order from least to greatest. So when I do that, I end up with these numbers. I've got 3 35s, 2 37s, a 41. You can see I wrote them from the least to the greatest stories. Then what you need to do to make a stem and leaf plot is the stem, in this case, is the 10 spot. So I look at it in the 10 spot for the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers is 3. And the leaf, I'm going to write the numbers that come after the 3. So in this case, I've got 1, 2, 3, 5. So I'm going to write 1, 5. I'm going to write a 7. Actually, sorry, I write my 3 5s and I write my 2 7s. So I have my 1, 2, 3 5s and I write my 1, 2 7s. So then I go on to the next number. My stem in this case, in my 10 spot, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers that start with 4. And then I'm going to write each one, and they're all different this time. So I'm going to have a 1, a 4, a 5, and a 9. I'm looking at that ones place. A 1, 4, 5, and 9. And now I keep going and I look at the 5s. And I've got 1, 2, 3 5s in the 10 spot. And then I've got 2 zeros. I'm going to write 2 zeros and 1 8 that's in the 1 spot. All right, and the last question says, the building at 233 South Wacker Drive has a height of 110 stories. Explain how that height would be shown in the stem and leaf plot. And in this case, you're saying, well, Mrs. Naslund, there's more than a 10 spate. Your stem would actually be the 11, and your leaf would be the 0. And that's how you would actually write it out. So use the 11 for the stem and the 0 for the leaf. So today we talked about comparison graphs, looking at pictographs, vertical bar graphs. You'll have a chance to make a graph of your own. We also talked about stem and leaf plot. And that concludes our lesson for today.